As he was about to leave the shop, he saw the skinny hive again. Bonebone asked what he wanted. It turned out Beep had been exiled by his own kind. Now he wandered alone, always running from danger. Beep was tired of running. He wanted to become strong so he wouldn't have to flee anymore. Bonebone paused. It felt like he was looking at a mirror of himself. With some reluctance, he accepted Beep into the group. Of course, becoming strong meant lots of training and fighting. Beep's first training was to fight the Frogmen directly at one of their bases. Bonebone lent him his armor. Full of confidence, Beep headed out immediately. Bonebone saw him off at the city gate, but after Beep had walked away, he realized he had forgotten to give him a weapon. Beep walked alone through the thick fog until he reached a Frogman base. A fight broke out. Beep fought them with his bare hands. He was knocked unconscious. When he woke up, he stood up again as if challenging them for another round. But he soon passed out once more. One of the Frogmen tied Beep to a sacrificial altar. When Beep regained consciousness, he realized he was in serious danger. He had heard stories that the Frogmen ate their prisoners. In panic, Beep tried to free himself from the ropes. He failed again and again. Was this really his fate? Had his adventure just begun only to end so quickly? Bonebone, realizing his mistake, ran after Beep to give him the weapon. In the distance, he heard Beep scream. He immediately rushed toward the sound. Bonebone reached Beep just in time. He blocked the Frogmen's attacks and fought back. Quickly, he picked up Beep and fled from the area. Back in Mongrel, Bonebone brought Beep to the Thieves' Guild and laid him on a bed. Beep's leg had been severed. When he tried to stand up, he couldn't. He could only crawl on the floor. Bonebone remembered there was a robotic shop in Mongrel. He went there immediately, bought a cyber right leg, and attached it to Beep. Beep was able to stand again. Bonebone asked Beep whether he still wanted to become strong or if he wanted to give up. Beep stayed silent and lay back down on the bed. Softbone returned to the Frogman base again and again. He kept training to improve his fighting skills. He was starting to hold his own against the Frogmen. Even when surrounded, Softbone could still fight back and even managed to take down 2 of them. Although he passed out several times, he always got back up and continued fighting. Until finally, Bonebone came to pick him up. While carrying Softbone, Bonebone fought back whenever needed. He had become much stronger. Back in Mongrel, Bonebone laid Softbone on the bed and treated his wounds. In Mongrel, there was a barracks with a prison on the 2nd floor. Bonebone used it to train his lockpicking skill. He knew that outside, he would encounter many high-level locked chests, doors, and cabinets. As the day approached noon, Bonebone grew tired of lockpicking. He stopped by the Thieves' Guild to check on Beep. When he arrived, he found the bed empty. A feeling of worry rose in his chest. He quickly ran outside and followed Beep's scent, which led toward the city gate. He saw Beep being carried away by a fogman. Bonebone immediately attacked. With one powerful swing, the fogman fell. Bonebone began treating Beep's wounds, but more fogmen soon arrived. Beep tried to fight despite his injuries, but he quickly fell and was picked up again. Bonebone didn't hesitate. He fought fiercely and defeated the entire group. He picked up Beep and hurried back to safety. Beep still wasn't ready to fight on the front line. Maybe he was better suited for the back line, giving support to Bonebone and Softbone. Back at the Thieves' Guild, Bonebone laid Beep down on the bed once more. Bonebone then stopped at the ranger shop and bought a high-quality toothpick, a crossbow suitable for beginners. He continued to the Thieves' Guild and bought 2 thieves' backpacks. These were perfect backpacks that didn't reduce the user's skills, one for himself and one for Beep. He gave Beep the backpack and the crossbow along with its ammunition. He told Beep that from now on he should fight from the back line, attacking from a distance. From that moment on, Beep became known as Ranger BeepBone. They trained on their own. BeepBone trained his strength so he could carry heavy loads better. Bonebone focused on training his lockpicking skill. Softbone didn't want to be left behind and continued fighting the fogmen to sharpen his combat abilities. After feeling they had trained enough, they decided to continue their journey. They left Mongrel and headed north. In the middle of their travel, they realized they were dangerously close to a fogman base. The horrifying screams of someone being eaten echoed through the fog. Not wanting to take any risks, they moved carefully, trying to sneak past. But at one point they were spotted. Immediately, they turned and ran for their lives. The fogmen kept coming. Bonebone and Softbone chose to stand and fight, buying time for BeepBone to escape. The horde seemed endless. Softbone eventually fell. Bonebone stayed on his feet, still fighting and striking back. But the battle showed no sign of ending. He quickly picked up the unconscious Softbone and ran, following BeepBone. Blow after blow landed on his body, but he kept running. If he fell here, he would become food for the fogmen. Bonebone was getting closer to the edge of the fog. The thick mist was starting to fade, but the fogmen continued their relentless chase. Finally, when they reached the obedience area, the number of fogmen chasing them began to decrease. Bonebone and Softbone turned around and fought back. Even though Bonebone was badly wounded, they managed to defeat the remaining fogmen. After quickly treating their injuries, Bonebone and Softbone continued onward to catch up with BeepBone. But the nightmare wasn't over yet. 2 iron spiders suddenly attacked. Bonebone fought with everything he had while Softbone tried to help. However, they were still not strong enough. Both Bonebone and Softbone fell. After the iron spiders left, they slowly got back up and continued their journey, limping forward. Eventually, they regrouped with BeepBone. Before moving on, they observed the situation ahead. There, they saw iron spiders and a skeleton. The danger was far from over. Even though they moved slowly and tried to sneak past, the skeleton spotted them. It attacked immediately. Bonebone fought back while BeepBone supported from behind. The battle with the skeleton was still raging when another iron spider and another skeleton joined the fight. Bonebone fell. Softbone kept attacking desperately. BeepBone ran and dodged, trying to survive. As expected, all three of them eventually passed out. When Bonebone woke up, he immediately removed all the equipment that reduced his stealth. Crawling quietly, he approached BeepBone and Softbone to treat their wounds. Once it felt safe enough, BeepBone and Bonebone stood up. But BeepBone was spotted by an iron spider and was attacked. BeepBone quickly ran, luring the spiders away from Bonebone and Softbone. Seeing the moment was clear, Bonebone picked up Softbone and moved north. The iron spiders chasing BeepBone had fallen far behind. It was finally safe to regroup with Bonebone. They managed to escape obedience and continued moving until they entered Floodland. In the distance, BeepBone suddenly saw a skeleton and ran straight toward it. Bonebone didn't have time to stop him. BeepBone greeted the skeleton and started following him. With no choice, Bonebone and Softbone followed as well. BeepBone seemed fascinated by this skeleton. The skeleton spotted an iron spider and attacked it without hesitation. BeepBone followed and tried to help, but the injury on his arm prevented him from using his crossbow. He could only fight with his bare hands. The iron spider was defeated. BeepBone was amazed. This skeleton was incredibly strong. Without saying much, the skeleton turned and walked away. Bonebone urged BeepBone to continue their journey. Not long after, they were attacked by another iron spider. BeepBone fell quickly and Bonebone had to carry him. In the distance, Bonebone saw a tower and ran toward it, hoping for shelter. A skeleton guarding the tower began attacking the iron spider that was chasing them. This gave Bonebone the chance to get inside, but the guarding skeleton wasn't strong enough. It was quickly overpowered by the iron spider. Softbone was still lagging behind, his injured leg making him limp badly. Suddenly, an iron spider attacked him. Softbone tried to fight back, but he fell instantly. Worried about Softbone, Bonebone rushed back out. He found Softbone lying alone on the ground, quickly picked him up, and ran back into the tower. There, he treated Softbone's wounds. They decided to rest and take shelter inside the tower for a while. When it was time to continue their journey, Bonebone approached the skeleton guard to thank him. The skeleton's name was Burn, a wanderer who had finally retired and settled down in Floodland. Burn shared a few stories of his old adventures, from the eastern ashlands all the way to the southern swamp. Bonebone thanked him once more, and they continued their journey toward World's End. On their way to World's End, Bonebone spotted a village and decided to stop by. It was Flotsam Village, home to the Flotsam Ninjas. Bonebone entered the headquarters and was greeted by Maul, the leader of the Flotsam Ninjas. It turned out they had a bad relationship with the Holy Nation. They decided to rest for a short while in the village before continuing their journey to World's End. It was already night when they finally arrived at World's End. BeepBone stopped at the travel shop, sold some items, and bought a wooden backpack. The next morning, they went to the ranger shop and bought every bolt available there. Once their supplies were ready, instead of heading east into World's End, they decided to continue their journey westward. In the middle of their journey, they came across a scattered group of cannibals engaged in battle. One cannibal had become separated from the rest. This was a perfect chance for them to practice their combat formation. Bonebone and Softbone quickly moved in to attack from the front, while BeepBone fired his crossbow from behind. The cannibal fell, but without warning, another cannibal suddenly charged at BeepBone. BeepBone dodged and quickly moved behind Bonebone for protection. Bonebone stepped forward and met the attack head-on. In an instant, the second cannibal was defeated. They were starting to get used to fighting with this strategy. After the fight, they continued their journey. In the distance, they saw a building. Bonebone asked one of the people there about it. It turned out this was a cannibal outpost, a frontline defense built to stop the cannibals from advancing toward Flotsam Village. But the attacks didn't only come from cannibals. Beak things were also assaulting the outpost. Suddenly, a fierce battle broke out. Bonebone, Softbone, and BeepBone joined the fight. BeepBone supported them with ranged attacks from the back, while Bonebone and Softbone fought alongside the defenders. Bonebone still didn't know much about the cannibal clan to the west. Seeing that even the Flotsam ninjas had to build an outpost to hold them back, he knew they couldn't be taken lightly. Not wanting to take the risk of running into large groups of cannibals, Bonebone and the others decided to turn around and continue their journey eastward. They thought it might be safer to head back toward United City's territory for now, especially since Bonebone's cats were running low. When they reached the Ockrans Valley area, they were suddenly chased by Holy Nation soldiers. BeepBone quickly moved forward, luring the soldiers away and drawing their attention from Bonebone and Softbone.